Christian parenting.
Welcome to the Living Wholehearted podcast. We are Jeff and Terra Mattson, a husband and wife team who is shrinking the integrity gap in our own lives and helping others do the same. I'm a leadership and organizational development coach, and Terra is a licensed marriage and family therapist.
We believe that if you have a following, you are a leader, and how you lead matters. Whether you are leading in the home, work, or community, we are bringing you biblical, clinical, and relational wisdom to help you in every relationship that matters most to you. None of us do this perfectly, but we are leaning into the reality of our humanity and profound wisdom of grace.
We're back in the podcast studio. I'm here with my wife, Terra, and we're talking today about why leaders need rest and play and how we actually do it.
Well, I love to play, and I actually love to rest too, but rest is harder for me. And you and I have always, from day one of our relationship, have really worked to find the balance of work hard and play hard.
Yeah, that has been kind of a regular theme for us. And what does that mean?
Well, I think we've been discovering that over time, but what I found too is that leaders in general have a hard time with this. So that's why we need to talk about it. It seems like a given, when we're kids, it's harder to work, right? It's easier to play and to rest. And we might hear our kids be like, I'm bored. But overall, they just have a very different pace. And then something happens along the way, especially living in a Western culture or maybe even like an Asian American culture. There's certain cultures that value work more and productivity. And us leaders pride ourselves a lot of times on our productivity and our product. And so
yeah, I was just talking to a pastor today before this podcast. He's Indian, and he identified from a cultural standpoint that same thing: work, achieve, go after it. And yeah, you're right. It is. There's some cultural pieces there. There's some cultural pieces in our homes that come from that space. Most leaders don't seem to have a problem with the work side of it. They have the problem with the rest side. What does that look like?
Well, let's talk about the problems that are maybe the belief systems that are undergirding the I need to work all the time. And so a couple that I've heard from various different leaders is, well, if I don't do it, no one else will. So it keeps us on this perpetual treadmill of and the list is never, ever done. If you are a leader of any kind in the home, work, or community, the list is always going.
And there's a different aspect to even just looking at that, right? If I don't do it, no one else will. Some people might be emphasizing just the getting it done off the list, right? Others might be in that mindset. If I don't do it, no one else will do it well.
There you go. Yeah, it's about doing it right.
Quality or efficient, right? I mean, there's another side of it too, the efficiency factor. No one else is going to get this done or is going to see the best solution first. So that's kind of a funny nuance.
Totally. Okay, so that's one. And I've wrestled with that a bit over time. I don't know if you have, but that's one that I hear a lot from leaders. Another one is literally almost, it's not a known addiction, but there's this need for intensity. So there's almost if life isn't moving and going, then I've lost my identity or sense of self. What am I about if I don't have all these things on my plate, these hats I'm wearing, these boards I'm running, these projects, this title?
Yeah, everything I do.
Yeah, it's linked to this identity sense. So rest and play really run interference to that sense of identity. So if our identity is what we do, then we really will have a hard time resting and playing.
Unless you really learn to value the balance there.
Yeah.
And if you learn to value the balance there in real time, seeing how rest enhances your ability to do work, and work is a part of, it's a huge part of what we do on life and this planet, but that we work with a reward in mind of creating space or rhythm of rest. And how you can even have little rest while you're working, and be wise about that. I'm not the best with balanced nutrition and eating. I'm me. I mean, I am I barely eat breakfast, and then I can have a huge lunch or a huge dinner. I might even have lunch, just might have a huge dinner. And I've learned and heard that that's maybe not the best way of living, but I still wrestle with that mentality, right? So trying to snack in between. You girls are so much better at that. You and our daughters, you're always snacking, but yeah, and you're keeping your energy reserves going throughout the day, as opposed to me emptying mine entirely and then being what, hangry? Did I
Yes,
say it? How's
absolutely hangry. And yeah, just the like you said in the language of fueling our energy tanks, it's this idea of that anxiety. Like as the gas goes down,
Yeah,
anxiety picks up. And so part of why I'm snacking is to keep my anxiety down, but also again, just
energy reserves
fueling.
up,
Yeah.
fueling.
So I
Uh-huh.
can show up and be my best. So I
Yep.
love that point.
Yeah.
Like that if we can reframe and think about rest and play as a way that's actually fueling and giving us our best when we are working, then that can kind of help us with that sense of identity. Okay, so those are the two lies. I'm going to call them lies because I do think they're lies. The one that it's all up to me. If I don't do it, no one will do it right or the right way or get it done. And then the other one is that there's a sense of identity and that this is who I am. So if I do something else, it doesn't. And nobody's walking around thinking this. This is like peeling back the layers a bit and kind of going, why do I do what I do? Why do I have a hard time taking a Sabbath and a rest? How come it's hard for me to play with my kids? How come it's hard for me the moment that I sit down for dinner, I'm already looking at my phone and wanting to see, what's on my email, like this pull towards work. So we want to unpack that a little bit. So with those two lies, let's talk about some reframes, some truths, maybe
Hmm.
as we look at scripture, as we look at Jesus, as we
Hmm.
look at healthy
Hmm.
leadership,
Yeah.
that would free us up to play and rest this summer, particularly.
Oh gosh, yeah, and just even saying the word rest sounds like a foreign language to some of you out there, I'm sure, and we know what that feels like too. That's why we're talking about it, because we believe in this and we've experienced this. Okay, well, I guess in a reframe scenario, one of the things that we are trying to do is to allow our beliefs, what we actually believe, to dictate kind of our reality, right? Not the other way around. So we're getting caught up in our circumstances, and all of a sudden we're believing stuff that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those things for us is definitely understanding that God made us for relationship, and that not one way is the best way all the time, right? That we actually, He, in His sovereignty and wisdom, created us different, but that we would need each other. The different parts, the body of Christ is kind of that mentality or metaphor that's used in scriptures. So if you really believe in the body of Christ and that God is Jesus is the only head of the body, if you will, and all the other parts are significant and important, you can't throw a baseball without an elbow or a wrist or fingers, or whatever. We need all these parts to do things. And when we work together and learn to humble ourselves and see each other as valuable, that is part of learning to work and rest in that combination. You
Mm.
work better together when you're leaning into others in a healthy, interdependent way, not a codependent way, not a dependent way with people, but interdependent, a healthy linking of arms. What does that look like? Well, if there's someone that is stronger in an area in work, for example, well, no matter what work is, at home, at work, or on the job, or in the community, if you're doing something and someone else has a gift or a strength that isn't yours, lean into them for their strength and contribution. And likewise, hopefully they will do the same with you. In terms of play, when we do this, it's actually, we all play and recharge differently. And so, it's not okay in a family system, for example, for, just the one person to set the vacation just so that it meets all their desires. And actually leaning into each other in a healthy, interdependent way as well, to try to figure out and how to recharge everybody's batteries. And the freedom to do that, sometimes it means you're doing it together and you're sacrificing your own interests for the benefit of the other. But sometimes it means dividing, being okay with dividing, and each parts of vacation, for example, getting to recharge the way that they'd like to, and then you come back together. There's freedom in this stuff. I think maybe that's a theme that's, as I verbally process this,
I
that
love it.
comes to mind.
Well, I want to work backwards from what you just said and then kind of and hopefully, so hold me accountable if I go off grid, but to talk about the first half. In practice, when we went on our vacation, I think it was the last one we went on. This will age us out here soon, but Washington, D.C. was our last vacation. It was one on our bucket list. And we went around the table and we talked about what does everybody want and desire from this vacation. So you're speaking to
Oh
that
yeah,
in
we
of a
did that.
practical
Good job.
way. But that is something that I think we do often in a more casual way of just trying to attune to what is everybody's expectations, because we're all so different in our family,
Yeah.
and play and rest look very different. And so, one person, we won't mention her name, she knows who she is, wanted to be in those museums all day long and couldn't get enough. And another person was done with those museums in a matter of moments and was ready to go ride bikes and go find some food.
That's
So
great.
those are the kinds of dynamics, right? Especially
Yeah.
when you're dealing with a family. Will most of the time, or with friends, if you're going to go vacation with friends, as leaders, it's important to choose people you enjoy being with, who bring life to you. So when you're on your off time, it's one of the biggest questions I ask
That's
a
good
lot of
one.
leaders.
That's good.
Is who are the people you go and you can just be Jeff and Terra with?
Mhm.
Talking about us in third person. Doesn't put me on the narcissistic spectrum, but that is a sign. It's that time of year again. We are well into summer, and for our kids, that means soaking in the sun and drinking lemonade without a worry in the world, except maybe that required summer reading. But as parents, it means the school year is right around the corner, and that can bring a wave of emotions. Whether you're excited and eager, or stressed and anxious about what the upcoming school year will entail for your kids, we have a resource that will guide you through all the highs and lows of the next school year. The Christian Parenting 2022-2023 Prayer Journal is now available. Key Psalms to Pray Over Your Kids is a weekly guide to help you pray specifically over your kids. This journal draws from the songs, poems, and expressions of faith found in the 150 chapters of Psalms. The messages found in those chapters are the perfect guide for a prayerful heart. Visit cpguide.org to request your 2022-2023 prayer journal, Key Psalms to Pray Over Your Kids. Again, that's cpgives.org. That is part of the question I'll ask is part of the assessment of who are the people. And oftentimes leaders don't have those people because it ends up being about work again. They end up putting the
Right.
pastor hat on, or the business hat, or the coach hat. And so it's an intentionality. When we go on vacation, we are either doing this as just the four of us, our family,
Mhm.
and you and I have to work hard to say, okay, we're putting work aside.
Yep.
Or if we go with friends, we're intentionally choosing people who can let us just be.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
we might talk about work, but there's
Right.
a permission piece there.
That's one of the things that we say to leaders, that you really need to, when it comes to just being in leadership, wherever you are in your business or organization, you need to have at least one, maybe two people that aren't associated with your business or organizational workplace, who know you and who you know them, and there's that freedom and relational deposits, and they are safe, and you can talk about anything that's going on, but they're not tied to it's not tied to their livelihood. The things you just got to have that. It's really important. It's a healthy thing to have through the journey, because the journey's hard and it can be consuming, where you begin to feel like you have no one. And, sometimes people too need more help than that. And it's really healthy healthy people get help. So seeing a counselor or a life coach, somebody that you can be walking through the journey with in leadership, focusing on specifics about work and taking the pulse again with somebody objective, that's worth paying for. And, we even do that. We're, as having expertise in these things, we have people that we'll check in with, professionals that aren't tied to our work, so that we can stay healthy, right? That's kind of what we've had a pattern of doing for the last couple decades.
I'm laughing because you're supposed to hold me accountable and talking about the other piece. You don't even know where I was going to go.
Oh, do that.
But I don't remember because we already went on a tangent.
So we had two lies that we were approaching. When the first one was that it's up to me and I got to do it. No one else will do it. And the other was identity. Does that ring a bell?
You. Yes, thank you. Okay. So coming back to
I held you accountable.
You did, and you helped me get back there. So the second piece of what you were saying, that I really do think that part of the challenge for leader types, and there is a type, there's a high responsibility factor for a lot of us. And it's why we're at the front of the pack or raise our hand and be like, I can do that. Or someone asks us to do that because they know it'll get done.
Mhm.
And so that's a beautiful thing. It's a God designed thing. And yet there's this reality that we need to, especially if we say we follow Jesus. It's kind of shrinking that integrity gap between what we say. God is with me. God will use all things. He'll use my fish and my loaves. And that he uses someone like me, broken and fallen. Look at every single leader and disciple in the Bible. They're all got stuff. And he uses them. And he even uses the things we drop, the balls we drop. He uses it. And so it's stepping back and letting our theology match our reality and
Mhm.
going, you know what? At the end of the day, this is God's, whatever it is that he has me leading. And
Mhm.
so that helps me step away and to say, that's all I could do for today.
Mhm.
God, you do the rest. Your power be made perfect in my weakness. And then I get to watch God do these things without me. And
Mhm.
for some leaders, they don't get that because they're like, wow, that sounds prideful. But many leaders listening are going to go, I get that because we're at the center of the hub for so often.
Absolutely. It's so true that there's this pressure that we begin to feel and start to believe a lie that I have to just keep all these balls up in the air. I have to do this. I have to keep
Yeah.
going. And
And other people tell us that too.
yeah, and we're not saying don't work hard.
Yeah.
We're saying no, as you work hard, work smart, but also let your theology dictate how you work, right? This is about integrating what you believe into everything that you do and who you are. It's not about compartmentalizing, and that is one of the challenges that we as humans have a difficult time doing is integrating our real belief. Yeah, God's with you at work just as he is in church and just as he is in home and wherever you go. I mean, and you bring all of who you are
Mm.
wherever you go. And so when you do bring your work ethic to the table in the job, and you have responsible higher level of responsibility for yourself and for others, when you place that in God's hands and say, I want to lead me, God, and I want you to help give me ideas and thoughts and wisdom that does not come from me, but comes from you because you care about these things too. You care about me and you care about these people that I'm stewarding. When you realize that it is all His anyway, you wouldn't even be here if He didn't
Mm.
allow you to breathe right now. Your heart would stop if He didn't want it to keep going. So he is in charge. And as he's in charge of all of those things that we take for granted every day, I mean, you're a walking miracle when you think about it. And he's in charge of all these things. It frees us up as leaders to realize what's my part, God. And really, whether you're a Christian in the business and organizational workspace, or you're not, these principles are true. If you're hearing this and you're like, that sounds stupid. No, this is what God does when we are appropriately aligned with Him. Is He moves through us as His kids, and He made us for relationship with Him to impact the systems that He cares about more than we could ever care about.
Well, let me take it to a leader that's in the home, working full time in the home. These homemaker moms, right, who are
Yeah,
thinking,
that's right.
okay, how do I rest and play because my job is 24/7? Like,
Yeah.
and I will say there's this thing called mommy guilt where, and I'll speak to the dads who are the stay at home dads as well.
Right.
I can't say that a lot of the dads I talk to have the same dynamic. Mostly moms, but some dads out there might where you feel this guilt to want to go rest and take a break from your job. And I think it's important for when our work. So pastors have the same problem. It bleeds. It's not clear lines. Like what is ministry? What is my friends? And what is
When
my
is my
work?
recreation time?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
all the same,
Yeah.
and that's what it
Mhm.
is for a mom and dad and the job that we have there. And those that are doing that full time and have chosen to stay home, that would be an example of where they're like, well, I don't relate as much. And I go, yeah, you do. It's thinking about those times where have you put in your vacation time and
Mm,
have you advocated for now it's my time to go play and to refuel
yeah.
and to reframe from if you're a homeschooler, your teacher and move over to mom and play with your kids,
Yeah.
right? It's just learning to recognize there's different parts of who we are and we've got to engage those. Otherwise, it's like working out. If you're always pumping iron on your biceps and you forget the rest of your body, it starts to look funky, but it also creates injuries.
Yeah.
And so that full body kind of attuning to all of who we are is what we're
Hmm.
talking about.
Yeah, we are. We're talking about that, and one of the things that I think that has helped us, that I enjoy when I think about how we calendar for margin and play. And we do this usually in November of a year where we look ahead to the next year, and we literally get our calendars out and we put in our big rocks, the markers that we look forward to and lean into, and we prioritize those and save those. So this camping trip to the North Umpqua, this camping trip to Lake Tackalack, this time over here in Central Oregon with this family that we've done for whatever 8 or 9 years now, and we put those down and we look forward to them, and then we have this other thing that we are committed to, which is we got to play kind of along the way as well. We can't just work insane and then like
1 week out of the
take
year.
this 1 week out of the year and think that everything's going to be renewed.
Right.
There's a healthier rhythm, just like it is in eating, the kind of throughout the day, as opposed to just starving yourself and then having this huge dinner, or whatever it
Are
might
you
be.
saying that's not a good thing?
I'm just
Everyone just
I'm just acknowledging that there's some wisdom there. I'm not saying that that's always bad. Okay, or second dinner for that matter is not always bad. Okay, back to the point. Play more frequently. So weekends, right? And it can't just be, this is where if you're in a family system, it's about creating wins for everybody. Sometimes there needs to be a time where individuals can look forward to getting away and doing something that recharges them. That can't be the regular norm, but family norm is thinking about what we're going to do to laugh, to get outside, to go mix it up, the routines. And I think that that's really important so that you can feel recharged more regularly, and it's more balanced so that you can come back and hit it hard and intense, the work that we do. And so, yeah.
And I love when it's on our calendar because it helps someone like me who is always trying to cram as much in. And if it's already on the calendar, it holds me accountable. There's a lot of times where I'm like, gosh, today I have a lot to do, and there's a calendared day of rest or play. And it holds me to that place to go, God knew that I would need this. And on the other side, it's always this beautiful thing of like, wow, that filled my cup. And so not pushing it back out and going, okay, I'm going to reschedule that time of rest or that time of play. If we have a game night that we're going to be doing, we show up, and God uses in honoring that. And I think that's really key for us leaders because we can always have something more to do and something that seems more important, trying to barge in. What am I trying to say?
Barge
Barge
in.
in.
Yeah.
And that idea of God's sovereignty a bit in calendaring out and kind of putting in these blocks. And that's where that 7 day, the rhythm of rest on Sundays. To
God knew what he
trust
was
he
doing.
knew what he was doing, and to trust that you would need that, and Monday will show up soon enough, or there'll be work again to do. And I want to go to
I
that
mean, even the
second.
country songs are filled with "Live for the Weekend."
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, I know.
and there's no God in that. Maybe in a lot of those tunes.
Well, and I think okay, we're going to go on another tangent because even the way we frame rest and play sometimes sucks the life out of us.
Yeah,
And so really stepping back and going, what does actually refresh me?
sure.
That takes time, and sometimes we have to work hard with our coaching clients to help them with that.
Hmm.
Like, I used to love to play guitar. I forgot about that. Or
Yeah.
I haven't been on a walk outside in ages, and just that simple shift.
Yeah, we think and start believing lies that like that's not going to do anything for me,
Right.
or like why would I waste time
Why would I waste
doing this?
time?
And leaders kind of, because that's just we get sucked into the vortex,
Yeah.
when actually these mundane things, cooking a meal with somebody,
Mm.
and it not just being chicken nuggets and fries, right? Okay, or going on a walk and literally in just leaving your phone in the truck and going and observing the wind and the birds and what you're noticing. All these things God made us to discover and use. Our five senses He gave them to us, not just to survive, but to thrive and to
Yeah.
enjoy. Those things change our body rhythms. The neuroscience is awesome in that. Maybe speak to some of that. Like, just why do leaders need to really reconcile with the reality that if they're freaking out with anxiety because of all that they're holding, they need to build in rest? Why is that from a neuroscience so important?
Well, without geeking out on too deep of a level, the generic piece is that we are living on a drug. It's a adrenaline junkie type of, if you're going from the next to the next of urgency, and your neural pathways are becoming accustomed and addicted to, and everyone around you can feel that. I mean, when
Hmm.
I'm in that place where I'm going, 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 I'm not bringing a non-anxious presence to anybody.
Nope.
Everybody can feel that.
Yeah,
You
that's
feel it,
true.
my
Yeah.
kids feel that, those I lead feel it, and that's true. The fact is, it helps us to live at a more, if we say from 0 to 10, and our
Hmm.
bodies are always at an 8, 9, and 10. Tens being intense, like the most intense we get,
Hmm.
and zeros that peaceful. We're on vacation, nobody's bugging us,
Hmm.
and we're always at that 7, 8, 9. It's not only wearing on the engine,
Uh-huh.
and but it's creating this constant roller coaster of a life, and your body can't shut off.
Yeah.
So when we practice these small things like going for a walk for no other reason but going for a walk and smelling the flowers,
Yeah.
or taking time to enjoy making dinner with
Hmm.
our spouse, sitting down on the couch and just listening to our little one jabber about all the things in their day for no other reason but to be present with them, it gives our body a chance to come off of that roller coaster
Hmm.
and rest and get closer to the 3, 2, 1. Now, when we've been doing an 8, 9, 10 for decades,
Yeah.
we need professional help because it literally is a drug. It's a toxic detoxing that we have to go through.
Yeah, our bodies are totally no wonder why we're shot. We're hitting burnout, or you don't even know, but you're impacting others and you're still on the adrenaline, and you
Yeah.
minimize that it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
That's not me. You're so unaware of self, but everybody else can see it.
Yeah, and you've used the analogy before of like carrying a backpack and not realizing you're carrying it because you get so used to it. And
Right.
so getting a chance to actually take the backpack off and feel what that's like gives
Oh
us
yeah.
a chance. So your body needs to practice this in order to learn and to reprogram those neural pathways. We need
Hmm.
new experiences to have our body and our mind and our spirits and our hearts catch up to where
Yeah.
God is calling us to. So we might go, "Oh, I know rest is important,
Yeah.
but am I actually doing it?" And
Yeah.
so these small ones help us take the larger rests. When you hear people like a John Mark Comer who says, "I'm going on sabbatical for 3 to 4 months." And we're all like, how does he get to do that? Well, he's worked muscles over the years
Hmm.
so that now it feels easier. It's not easy for someone like
Hmm.
John Mark, but it is
Yeah.
easier because
Yeah.
he's been lifting 5 pounders in rest. And
Yeah.
then eventually he can get to the,
And that goes to the point of, like, how many of you out there, you live for you kind of look forward to the vacation, which is awesome. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but it takes you 2 days to unwind,
yeah.
and you've now missed 2 days of vacation because it took you that long. That's what you're talking about here. So having more mini rests, mini experiences, and a rhythm throughout the year will actually make your actual vacations even sweeter. You won't take as long because you'll have learned what it looks like to calm the body, and to your body can switch over faster. That's what I'm hearing you say.
Yes. And so let's end with that second lie, which is my identity is kind of wrapped up in what I do. And I really don't know who I am apart from that. So when I'm sitting in a room trying to hang out, when I'm sitting in a room trying to hang out with people, it feels uncomfortable to me. I don't really know what to do. And I hear that a lot, even with female leaders. Like they want to love their kiddos, but there's something, they don't know what else to do but do things with their kids. And it's hard to relate relationally. So the lie is that's my identity. And the truth is that we are more than what we
So
do.
much more.
Who we are matters more to God, and He actually delights in us. And I
Mm.
think, Jeff, you've taught me how to do this more than anybody. Watching you delight, all of our friends affirm this, that you just delight in what God has created,
Mm.
whether that's our daughters, whether that's the trees and the birds and the rivers. Like you just get so excited. And I see that that's the Father's heart, that
Mm.
they don't have to perform, they don't have to do anything but just be what they've been created. And
Thank
not
you.
only does it help others as we lead feel that from us,
Mm.
when we can do this on our own, they feel that from us. And you've
Mm.
practiced that a lot, but it also helps us grow as children of God, even as leaders, right? To trust that I'm more than what I do. And at the end of the day, my hats can change, my leadership roles, my titles can change, but who I am and God's delight in me doesn't change. And so play and rest helps us with that.
Boy, we can forget that by just getting on the hamster wheel with all the important things. I mean,
You're doing quotes right now,
I
the
know.
importance
Oh, it's
things.
amazing. I mean, sitting with leaders, I've had many leaders just describe to me and make a list of all the important things that they're doing, and I affirm they're important. But they might be too many, and I might have to tell them that that's too much for a human being to do.
Mm,
And they might not be able to deal with that or reconcile with that, but we need to work on helping them figure out what is humanly possible, because there's always going to be things, and their identity is lost in keeping up the hamster wheel going. And
yeah.
these are important things. They could defend any one of them. Even theologically, they could defend them in terms of how important they are. And yet, if they infringe on those inner circle pieces, those pieces that are as super that are priorities before work, ministry, and business, and extended family, and so on and so forth, like our spouse if you're married, and if you have kids, your kids, and of course our own relationship with God, and then there's a real problem there, so we are so much more than what we do, and for some it takes a journey, and that's a way that so many people, leaders that we've walked with over decades, so many different leaders have described it. I'm on a journey. We were just sitting with a number of people. I mean, here I think of one couple who, were in their 60s. They got raised kids and they got grandkids, and they've changed literally the world in
Yeah.
such a beautiful way through providing relief services, oxygen to third world countries, and water. And anyway, lots of beautiful things have been done. And yet, the gentleman who is describing this talks a little bit about I'm on a journey. I am. I thought I would have a lot of these things figured out, and yet I'm in my 60s. God is loving me enough to bring me back to some things that He wants me to continue to work on, and that's just awesome.
Mm.
But and He done incredible, beautiful things. But I love that heartbeat that He is, and an awareness that He delights in us. He loves us more than what we do. We are more than what we do. We are His children. For those that have placed their faith in Christ and are a part of His family, and for those that don't know Him yet, that's the invitation.
Yeah, and there's this both and in God's economy, kingdom purposes, is that He can keep doing what He's doing without us.
Oh, yeah, there's that
And yet
too.
He
The humble
chooses.
side of it.
He chooses
Yeah.
to partner with us. And so
Mhm.
holding that to say, He'll keep doing His work, all these great important things that
Yeah.
He's doing with
Yeah.
or without us.
Yeah.
And so that's meant to bring freedom, not to minimize our part.
Sure.
And so that's the part, the power of like, He chooses me to participate. He gifted me with
What a
these things. What a
privilege.
privilege. But I love that part of making room for rest and play requires someone to look at the list of to-dos and sometimes having to take some of those really important things off
Maybe.
plate. So I'm going to mention two books that have been really profound. We use them in our coaching quite a bit. But strengthening the soul of your leadership. It's all about the life of Moses and his journey and finding rest and having to learn to delegate. And that's Ruth Haley Barton. And then the other one is Necessary Endings with Dr. Henry Cloud. That one is just one I read almost every year, just doing a pruning process as a person who collects people and collects projects and collects important things with quotes. Um, that honestly, at the end of the day, it's sucking the life from the most important things that God has assigned me to. And so rest and play is an important part of figuring out what are really the most important things at the end of the day. What about you? What's your favorite resources or things that you could offer to our audience right now if they're interested in kind of leaning towards growing here?
Yeah, I mean, there's some great stuff out there, but one of the things that just popped into my head, honestly, was just the Proverbs, actually, how practical the book of Proverbs is, wisdom literature. And I've been on a path to growing and wanting to grow in wisdom. My grandfather, who's in heaven now, had a rhythm of reading a psalm and a proverb every day, and I don't know how many times he read through the Bible before he left this earth in his 90s, but many, 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 many times. And he encouraged me to be in the Proverbs, and so much practical wisdom there. And yeah, so that's what comes to my mind, I guess, initially.
I love it. Okay, and what's one thing that you're gonna play that and do this summer as we take a little break from our podcast? What's your favorite thing that you do?
Well, I mean,
You
I
only get
love,
one.
well, people that know me know my favorite thing is fly fishing, but I want to have more campfires. I've been missing that since we've
Ah.
been displaced a bit in our home journey. And I want to have some more time around the fire with family and friends.
Mm. I actually want to do more reading that's not related to my teaching and writing. Like I just want to
Mm,
soak up just from some more fictional play kind of reading. And
yeah,
so I'm excited to do that.
that'll bring renewal to us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those are those places. I also want to recommend Shrinking the Integrity Gap. Really is one of those books that we created, and this is part of that journey. Is if you're willing to read this book, maybe read it alongside a friend, a colleague, a mentee, a mentor, a spouse. And if you want a little more, check out our e-course on our website at livingwholehearted.com. We have all kinds of resources. If you want coaching, we've got one-on-one coaching to helping you come alongside your team. We really want to be a resource for you at any level, whether you are a parent or you are leading a Fortune 500 company and everything in between. We're passionate because what matters most at the end of the day is you and who you are. If you're modeling rest and play and working hard, then everyone beneath your wake goes, oh, I can do that too then. If we're running around with our heads, cut off and we're trying to solve every problem in the world and God didn't ask us to solve those problems, then we are communicating something to those that follow us that that's what they're supposed to be doing too. And everybody is living in high anxiety. So let's check in first as leaders. If there's anxiety in our home and it's feeling hard, check in as the leader of your kiddos and go, how am I modeling? If you're leading a larger organization and you're feeling that and people are complaining there, check in with you first. Let's start the summer. Summer's a great time to get to practice rest and play. And we're going to take a little bit of a break on our podcast. It's a great time for you to do some going back into the history of our podcasts. Go all the way back to the very beginning in our first 5 where we talk about our core values index and you hear a little bit of Jeff and I explain more of that. And we just have some fantastic podcast interviews throughout the years. And we'll be back in August and ready to go with some amazing interviews.
Yeah, this has been a rhythm for us in summer as a means of practicing what we're preaching about here. And taking rest in podcast is part of that as well. So, hey, thanks for being our listeners and connecting with us in the ways in which you do. And until next time, be the leader that you would follow. This podcast is powered by Living Wholehearted, Courageous Girls, and the Christian Parenting Podcast Network. Thank you for joining us in this critical movement of shrinking our integrity gaps between what we preach and live.